Because all we need to do is give you permission for you to be you.
Oh my goodness.
When you know who you are, you'll know what to do.
That's amazing.
This moment, you've been waiting for this your whole life.
Oh my goodness, I wish I was in the same room because I just want to hug you.
You can't fix a problem using the same thinking that created it. And by the way, beautiful, you didn't do anything wrong.
Thank you.
Your show is not a show, it's an experience.
What do you do, Stephen?
I'm the universal courier that's been sent to answer your doubt.
Thank you.
What the heck is happening right now?
And it's happening live.
My life's about the gift I've been given to make you the gift that you are.
Ready cameras, studio standby.
Video is ready for live.
If I enter your life, it will change. Start investing in the world called your dreams. Hello from Sydney, everyone. How you doing? I'm Stephen to Sede, and I'm with Dr. Irene. Now, let's just get this on the table really early. What time is it over where you are in Toronto, Dr. Irene?
2 a.m.
Okay, so everyone, my first message to everyone out there is stop waiting for your life to be convenient before you make a decision to commit to what it is you're trying to do. Second one you can write down, everyone, stop waiting for your life to be easy before you decide to be happy. Irene, thank you so much. I'll call you Dr. Irene all the way through this. Can I ask you a question? Why is it that you've given up sleep at 2 a.m. to come on this show, irrespective of whatever you think of the show and me, but what is the sentiment beyond the fact that you're just on a show?
Oh, geez, how much time? I am passionate because of my own life experience in helping others. I want to be the catalyst. And I know you call yourself an impactor, Stephen, and you are. My mission is to be the catalyst to transform billions of people's lives and well-being because of my own personal experience. If I can save one person who's listening today and that's why I'm here, from experiencing and suffering what my family and I did, I will be successful.
Everyone, just listen to the message there. When people talk about passion, they talk about commitment, they talk about their why. Would you be prepared to give up sleep in the middle of the night to come on a show and actually do what Dr. Irene just said she wants to do? So first, second or third message, whatever it is by now, make a decision, everyone. What is the level of commitment that you want? Because the universe is looking for people who are prepared to make a commitment and will actually provide you with threads to your destiny, opportunities if you're prepared to, whether it's give up sleep or share your story, which is what Irene's going to do as soon as we do some stuff around some markets. Because all we need to do is give you permission for you to be you.
Oh my goodness.
My life's about the gift I've been given to make you the gift that you are.
That is amazing. Wow.
Everyone, we do a masterclass and we try and get the show roaring off as fast as we can. Today's masterclass and this whole show is about how do you repurpose to reignite your mental resilience? How do you actually repurpose who you are, the stories, the struggles, those unbelievable journeys that some of us have gone on? How do you actually repurpose? And then how do you actually find the answers you never knew existed in your life? And today, 2 days ago now, a gentleman that I saw at a TEDx conference in 2019, this 98-year-old man shuffled out onto the TEDx stadium in Sydney in front of 16,000 people. And what he talked about shifted everyone. And I wanted to share just a small part of that with you today.
And I'm standing in front of you today as survivor of the Holocaust and a witness of the most tragic times in the history of mankind. I lived away from my family like an orphan. On that fateful night, I had arrived home, but my family had gone in hiding, and I was alone. I went to bed with my dog close by. At 5 a.m. on the 10th of November, 1938, 10 Nazis broke down the door of our house. And what they did to me, I'm ashamed to tell you. In front of my eyes, I lost my dignity, my freedom, and my faith in humanity. I lost everything I lived for. I was reduced from a man to being nothing. After my internments and camps, I was finally transported to what became my hell on earth, Auschwitz. My parents and sister were also transported to Auschwitz, and I was never to see my parents again. But I'm standing here today happy man, who enjoys life with a wonderful wife and a beautiful family. I do not hate anyone. Hate is a disease which may destroy your enemy, but will also destroy you in the process. I am doing everything I can to make this world a better place for everyone. And I implore you all to do your best too. For me, when I wake up, I'm happy because it is another day to enjoy. When I remember that I should have died a miserable death, but instead I'm alive, so I am aimed to help people who are down. I was at the bottom of the pit, so if I can make one miserable person smile, I am happy. Remember these words. Please do not walk in front of me. I may not be able to follow. Please do not walk behind me. I may not be able to lead. Just walk beside me and be my friend.
For 11 minutes, that particular gentleman spoke at an event in front of 16,000 people, and he was 98, and 2 days ago he passed away at the age of 101. I wonder, the night back in November 1938, if when he was watching his 200-year-old house being destroyed by those men, and he watched his dog, to use his words in the long form video, being murdered. I wonder if he actually asked himself, let me put up something up here. I wonder if he just asked himself, if on that day, when that answer, would he have answered the question, in 2021, you'll have lived a life with a wife of 76 years. I wonder if he'd have expected that answer, because in the video he said he expected to die that day with what they were doing to him. I wonder if he knew in 2021 the answer to the question, would your adopted home of Australia, after 50 years, would the leader of that country, the Prime Minister, do a press conference and speak of you? Would he have answered the question, you know what? You're going to be known as the world's happiest man. Because in 1938, what happened to that man, and in the subsequent years, what happened to him at Auschwitz and everything, and it's in the long-term video, would he have answered the question, are you going to live until 2021? Probably not. You're going to live and be married for 76 years? Probably not. You're going to be known as the world's happiest man? Probably not. So everyone, what questions are you being asked, both of yourself and by others, with answers you never knew existed? And so today, one of the things we're going to do from this day onwards is, a lot of the times I speak to people and they say to me, Steve, you give me answers that I never knew existed. So what I'm going to do over the next period of time, on Tuesday and Friday of every week, is release a video of 1 to 2 minutes with me giving you answers you never knew existed about your life. Why? And listen to this, everyone, because it's what people say of what happens when they speak to me. So my first answer to you is, don't look at the circumstances of your life now and think, I'll never be able to contribute to someone else's life or even mine. Because when that little boy who died 101 years of age, that little boy never knew the answers to the questions of his life in 1938. He never in a million years knew the answers that existed when he lived to 101 years of age. So I know, Donna, you've got a couple of questions you're going to put on the screen for me to answer that I don't know what they are. So Would you do me a favor, Dr. Irene, and read those out for me, please? Just read that question out, and I'm just going to answer it. I have no idea what it is.
I found out my childhood best friend passed away. I'm broken, but I'm really struggling to process this. Is it reasonable to be this upset over this?
Go to the whiteboard, please, Donna. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is the word best friend. First of all, when you can describe that you've actually got a best friend in life, when you can actually describe someone who is a best friend, I want you to, number one, the very first thing you need to do is acknowledge, what does that mean? What does a best friend mean? And ask yourself the three things. What did I do to achieve it? Who were they for me to give it? And whom could I find next? Guess what? To honor the fact that that person taught me being a best friend. You can't change the things and some things that happen in your life, but you can change every thought about those some things. So your thought of a best friend, what did you do? Who were they? And whom could you be in honor of them to create the next friend in your life? The next part of that question was, I'm broken, but I'm really struggling to process this. I know. There's the second thing that you need to do. Let life touch you. And Dr. Irene, I'm happy for you to jump in, and I'll ask you in a couple of seconds once I've done this. Number two, if you wish, Dr. Irene, let life touch you. If you're feeling sad, allow it. If you're feeling happy, allow it. If you're feeling angry, allow it. But don't get stuck there. So one of the things that you need to do, if you're struggling with this right now, look up and do some research on what are the stages of grief. What are the 5 stages or 7 stages, depending on what you read. Read up on what you're having to process emotionally, because not all of us are psychologists. Not all of us are professionals about this. I'm not a professional around mental health and mental illness, but I'll actually, if I was in that situation, I'd like to know what stages of grief I'm going through. So your best friend, acknowledge, what did you do? Who were they? And whom do you want to be to honor the next friendship you'll create because of them? Let life touch you and study why you're feeling like this. And is it reasonable to be upset over this? Discomfort, you can write this down, everyone. Discomfort is a derivative of pride. The most hurtful things in your life are the things that you're most proud of, the things that mean something to you. So in answer, and I'm just looking to the big screen in the studio, is it reasonable to get upset over this? Yes. Yes, it is. So number 3, give yourself permission to be proud of who you are. Number 2, go and find out what the stages of grief so you can understand what all these feelings are, because it's not normal. And then number 1, go and live the rest of your life to honor the best friend you created. Dr. Irene, anything to add? And if not, that's fine.
I was going to say that grief is really, it's about us. What are we, going to do without that best friend? Yes. And if you can turn it around and say, as you said, Stephen, how can I honor this person? How can I remember? And it's not to not feel the feelings. If you turn it around and you start thinking about all the beautiful memories that you have and honor that person's life truly, then, as you say, you'll become a better person for it, that you will be that best friend that can be the light for someone else.
Indeed. Donna, come full to me for a sec, Donna, please. There's a message I want to say to everyone, absolutely everyone. One of the things that I want you to be aware of, everyone, and I said this to a lady that I was at an event, and this girl came up. I won't give it too long to give you the details, but she happened to sit in a studio environment with me for reasons I won't go into. And in front of a group of people, she said, my husband died 6 years ago and the infinite possibilities of my life died with him. What I told her was, when you go to that next place, and this is to the person who's written this question, when you go to that next place, whatever that is for you, whether it's heaven, reincarnation, whatever your belief system believes that to be true, when you go to that next place and your best friend is waiting there for you, what answer are you going to give them to the question that they ask of what did you do with the life that I missed? What did you do to honor the friendship? And what did you do for the rest of your life in memory of our friendship? Because if you start anchoring to that conversation, all of a sudden, your infinite possibilities, as I told this young girl, when you get to that next place and your husband asks, what did you do with the life that I missed? You better have a better answer than saying, I don't care, because the infinite possibilities died when you did. Live in honor of who they were. Next one, Donna. Could you read that for me, please, Dr. Irene, if you don't mind?
Sure. My fiance and I are going through a rough patch. We've been living with my dad, but he died 3 weeks ago. I don't know much about life. What are some life tips to survive?
Wow, okay. Onto the board, please, Donna. My fiance and I are going through a bad patch, a rough patch. Okay. Life's not easy. Let life touch you, same thing. So I've actually said that on the previous one. So let life touch you, number one. The second thing you need to do is recognize something. Most people, I need a whiteboard spell checker. Most people never stop long enough to recognize anything. One of those recognitions would be the fact that you are in these stages of grief. One of these recognitions is, guess what? It's actually tough. Why? Because it meant something. What's this called? Pride. So the first thing in terms of life lessons, and let life touch you. Be mindful of the fact that this is hard. Recognize the process and the period you're in right now. Understand that your stages of grief may not match to your fiance's, and there may be friction at those moments because you're not annoyed at each other. You're just annoyed that how did this happen? So number one, let life touch you. Number two, be understanding of grief. Number three, be proud of the fact that it hurts because it means something to you. Now, there was something else that jumped out at me 3 weeks ago. Okay, number three, it's raw. And guess what? It's raw for someone of my age. I know Dr. Irene's only 21 plus. You said that you haven't got much life experience. I'll come to that in a moment. I am not. I'm a lot older. I would suspect I'm probably a lot older than you. I find it difficult when things in life happen to you that are raw, that actually hurt my pride because they mean something and I have to grieve through them. It doesn't matter how much life experience you do or don't have. And on that last one of your experience, when people say to me, oh, Steve, I don't have as much experience as you, or I don't have as much experience as Dr. Irene with all of the professionalism that she's got and medical background she's got. Your experience is the experience people have of you. So the next thing that you need to do, number one, let life touch you. Number two, recognize the stage you're in and be proud of the fact that it hurts. Let me say that again. Be proud of the fact that it hurts because it means something. Number three, it's raw, so be kind to yourself. And then number four, your experience is what people say to you. Your experience is what people share with you. Your experience is why people love you. Whoever put this post out, do you have any friends that say kind things about you? Do you have friends that enjoy sharing with you? Have you got a fiance, obviously, and other friends that say they love you? Because if they do, all you need to ask is, why are they doing these three things? Because that's my experience. Be raw in the moment by being kind. Recognize that this hurts because it means something. Understand the stages of grief and let life touch you. Dr. Irene, have you got anything to add for this person who's asked that question?
To understand it's a journey. Life is a journey. And I know it's cliche to say the only constant in life is death. I mean, you could say that from the moment we were born, we're dying. And that's not to be pessimistic in the slightest. No. It's understanding that it's part of life's experience that we are going to lose people. And it is also part of our growth journey that as we love and lose and we grow from that. In other words, we don't grow when life is hunky-dilly-dory and all sunshine and roses. We grow through adversity. And
Yep.
unfortunately, death is one of those.
Come to the board for me, please, Donna. Everyone, one of the things that's really important to do, and if you remove the question, so we got the board full, thank you, Donna. One of the things, so let's say, for example, this is inspired, and I say this with great respect to the person who sent that question in. This is inspired by that person. If you've sustained any form of loss, and it might be any form of disruption, any form of hurt, if you've had any of those, and it may not be as severe as the gentleman from Auschwitz, Eddie Jacko, sorry. It may not be Eddie's story. It may not be Irene's that she's about to share and expand on. It may not be that you've had a death of a father 3 weeks ago, but you may have lost a job. You may have had the disruption of having to homeschool your kids, or you may be hurt by the fact that things have changed. The great resignation that's flooding around the world now with people changing jobs. There are 4 things that you need to do, followed by a 5th. Number 1, whether you've lost, disrupted, or hurt, number 1, be present to what that is, because you can't fix the past. You can only damage the future by not being present. So being present, let life touch you. Number 2, do some research. Don't just sit there and go, why am I feeling like this? Do some research when that moment comes that you feel like you do. Embrace some of the things. You might go, wow, you mean to tell me that bargaining and that anger and that whole depression and withdrawing, that's all part of the grieving process? I never knew. So when I feel that really rage in front, where's that coming from? Now you know. Embrace it from your research by being present. Number 4, refine your actions. In the context of the engaged couple, if your partner's not feeling the anger you are because they're in a different stage, refine your behavior by just giving them some space, perhaps. Number 1, be kind to yourself. There's no point in beating up about loss, disruption, and hurt. Be present to it. Research it. Embrace some of the findings of your research. Refine it and be kind to yourself. Guess when? Every single step of the way. Dr. Irene, anything to add?
Sorry, I was looking at the whiteboard and then it went away.
Okay, it was a bit quick. Sorry.
Like you're wiping it away.
I'm sorry, beautiful.
It's all good. It's all good. I want to say to this lady, I assume it's a lady, I don't know why, that
sounds like it.
It never gets easier. My father died at the age of 85, like right before COVID hit. And it was suddenly, and nothing prepared me for it. I'm a doctor. I watched him flatline. I've attended other code blues. Nothing prepared me for it. So as you say, be kind to yourself and don't expect more of yourself than is reasonable. Don't beat up yourself. We tend to be our own worst judge and juries, and convict ourselves that we're not strong enough or we're not bright enough or we don't have what it takes. And the reality is, death is hard for everyone. It doesn't matter what age. And it doesn't what age you are, and it doesn't matter what age the person who you lose is. It's always hard to lose that. It's like part of your soul is ripped away.
Indeed. Just a moment.
My question.
Question away.
My question is, how do I bring people together even though we're far apart?
How do you coach people to trust their passion?
What are the top 3 qualities that I should look for people for me, my brand and business?
What can I do not to make myself so tired and exhausted from other people's pain?
My question.
Question away. Part of today, season 2, is a little bit different. Some of the shows will be people coming on and asking me questions. Some of the stuff will be the answers that you never knew existed. But also season 2 is about bringing people on. And we've been in a theme of how do you go with Andre a couple of weeks ago in terms of mental health, from having a dialogue to discovery around what happened after his heart condition and his heart disease. Last week with Rajiv, we started talking about how do you have this process of sort of a discovery to awareness, in terms of how the awareness of your mental health. Today, I wanted to talk about mental resilience. And the reason I've asked Dr. Irene to come is, how did she, with her story that she's about to share, and we'll put some models around it as we go, how did she, a little bit like Eddie Jacko, how did she repurpose some fairly unimaginable tragedy and trauma in her life, especially with her early children? And how did she repurpose to reignite her mental resilience? So she would literally get up to be in the middle of the night and share some time with a guy in Sydney at 2 a.m, because I would imagine there was a period in her life many, many years ago where she probably wasn't really ready to get out of bed for anything. So Dr. Irene, what I'd like you to do is just give a little bit of an overview of some of the key points in your story journey, and then we can start talking about how did you repurpose some of those traumatic events and turn them into the person and the woman you are today.
Absolutely, Stephen. So 18 years ago, I lay broken, literally, in a hospital bed, actually on a hospital gurney. I broke 10 bones. I was spitting glass out of my mouth, and I had a police officer sitting by my bed going, "So why'd you fall asleep at wheel?"
Wow.
And I was like, and I couldn't compute how I didn't fall asleep. "You fell asleep at the wheel. What was it?" I'm like, "No, I didn't fall asleep. I lost consciousness. I must have." But she couldn't. She just assumed and judged me right then and there. And what had happened is that I had lost consciousness and driven my car straight into a massive rock face in northern Canada. And it happened because I was physically burned out. It developed a physical condition, not knowing it, that caused me to lose consciousness. The worst part of it, and the reason why she was being so tough with me, is that my 2 young sons were in the car with me. They were 4 and 6 years old. My 6-year-old son automatically had PTSD because he was witnessing at the scene what had adults throwing up. We had to be cut out by what's called the jaws of life. My youngest son suffered a catastrophic car accident, brain injury. Sorry, that's at 2 a.m. talking.
Yep.
A catastrophic brain injury, and had to be airlifted out. And they didn't think he was going to live. He had a Glasgow coma scale of 3, like the lowest that you can have. He was completely gone. And so here I was, broken in a hospital, not knowing whether my youngest son was even going to survive. Hearing reports that my 6-year-old son was being kicked out of school on a daily basis because of his rage and anger and threatening to hurt himself. And I was in SARS quarantine, the first one, and I couldn't see them. All I could do was talk to them for 15 minutes a day. Let me back up. After they decided that, my youngest son was going to survive, he had to have emergency brain surgery, and they kept him in a coma for 2 weeks, even after that. And it was truly the lowest moment of my life. Forget the pain of the 10 broken bones that I had. It was the emotional, you want to talk raw, the emotional pain, the guilt, the shame, the remorse of what kind of mother was I? What kind of doctor was I not to have known? What kind of monster was I that I almost killed the 2 most important people to me in my whole life? And I was just spiraling down in guilt and shame and remorse, to the point where I truly didn't believe I deserved to live. I wasn't thinking about suicide. I just didn't believe that I deserved to live. I didn't believe that I deserved to have my children. And then something happened that smacked me down even further. And that was that I was on SARS quarantine, somehow served with papers where my ex-husband was suing me for full custody of our children, saying that I was an incompetent mother and that I was a danger to him. It was truly the darkest moment of my life. I was in this dark hospital room, sobbing, and here's the thing, every fiber of me agreed with him, right? Every fiber said, he's right. He's right. I am a danger to them. I almost killed them. I am an incompetent mother. I'm an incompetent doctor. And yet at that moment, I realized I had a choice. I had a choice, and that is one of the biggest words for me in my life, is understanding that I had a choice to decide that I wasn't an incompetent mother, an incompetent doctor, to give myself that grace that you talk about, Stephen. Because I was doing the best I could, and I was suffering from something that was and still is and is getting worse, a silent, hidden pandemic that was far worse and kills far more people on a yearly basis than COVID has. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And that is burnout. It was giving myself the grace to understand that I didn't know why it happened to me. My 6-year-old son asked me afterwards, so Mommy, why did we almost die?
Wow.
And I said, how about we turn it around? Why did we survive? We should have died.
Irene, before you go to turnaround, I just want to show, because and as obviously as someone who has the term doctor, you obviously have an extraordinary level of care for people to dedicate your life to that over and above just the personal things. Before we go to turning it around, one of the things I just wanted to share from everything you've just said is, what are the 9 steps of what I'm going to call here, and I'll just do this, Donna, saying I've got it here. Disruption to burnout, everyone. And Irene, help me along as we do this. The very first thing that's going to happen when there's some type of disruption, whether it's as brutal as a trauma as what, and said respectfully, Dr. Irene, when you've had some type of disruption, whether it's Eddie Jacko and a Holocaust, or the Holocaust that was a car accident for Dr. Irene, or the people who have had a father passing, or the person who had a best friend passing, or the fact that you just lost your job because of COVID, or there's some financial constraints, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be questioned by others and judged. And help me along as I go with this, Irene. I'll do it, and then I'll come to you. The very first thing, if we look at what happened to Dr. Irene, and then if we took this disruption and took the lessons from this beautiful lady, the first thing that's going to happen is people are going to question and judge you. Whether it's a Holocaust survival, whether it's the trauma of this accident, whether it's the passing of a father, whether it's the disruption in a marriage, whether it's the ending of a best friend, whether it's just a disagreement because some of the stresses of COVID, the first thing that's going to happen, others are going to question and judge you. Expect it. The second that's going to happen is you're going to relive and almost break away from it. The third thing that's going to happen is you're going to isolate, and your emotion and your ego is going to sabotage you and make you almost feel as if you're irresponsible. So the first thing that happens when someone questions and judges you, it affirms your thinking and fuels your doubt. The second thing, when you relive it and you break away from you detach from who you are, and what's on the other side of detachment? Regret. I wrote recently with Rachel Beck, I did an interview, and I said, forgotten importance is the birthplace of regret. When you start breaking away from what's important to you in your life, and you start forgetting about those importances, you've just created the conception of regret. So relieving the break detaches you from you, and it starts creating regret. Your isolation of your emotion and the decrease of your worthiness actually ends up you going from affirming the detachment of your worthiness to doubt, regret, and accepting that you deserve what's happening to you. So that's what I heard in the context of what you shared, Irene, and I won't rub anything off the board, but that's what I heard. So if we're talking to try and benefit and help others by Dr. Irene's story and the ability for me to do what I'm doing on the board, when something happens in your life, everyone, and I'll just give you time to collect your thoughts, Irene, people are going to question and judge you, expect it. People, that level of judgment, if you absorb it, is going to make you relive the moment and break away from who you are. Your isolation and emotion, because of that break and because of you accepting their opinionated judgment, is going to affirm, detach you from your worthiness, fuel your doubt, fuel your regret, and all of a sudden your acceptance. How many people today are struggling with the acceptance of who they are? Because they've allowed judgments to break the emotion, affirming, detaching their worthiness, so they're doubtful, regretful, and they're going, yeah, you know what, I deserved it. How could a mother possibly deserve something like that? But the end result is, I'm sure if Eddie Jacko, bless him wherever he is, there may have been a time in his life where he couldn't understand how this could happen to me. Any thoughts on that, Irene, as we head towards the how did you turn it around? And I haven't rubbed anything off.
Thank you. Remember, it's 2 a.m. for me. Okay. So I will say, and what I experience, time and time again with my clients and my own personal experience, is that the reason you allow others to judge you is because you are your worst judge and jury. You are your own worst critic. And we are hardwired epigenetically to be pessimistic and negative, and so we automatically go to, I must have done something wrong, right? I'm automatically guilty, and whether it's that caveman, primeval fear of rejection, because there was a time where if you were rejected by your family, your community, your tribe, it was literally a death sentence to be thrown out.
Yep.
Because you couldn't survive on your own. So it comes back to giving yourself that grace and understanding that the fear and the pessimism is hardwired for now, right? That's what I'm on a mission to do, is to rewire people's brains, retrain their brains.
Yes.
To positive, to optimism. And it's possible because it's neuroplasticity. That's what we found with my son. And I know I'm jumping ahead. And
no, it's fun. We'll come to that in a second.
For everybody.
One of the things that comes to mind on that is when we auto-accept judgment, and Dr. Irene just said it, we're almost hardwired to do it. It's the reason accepting someone's opinion, even if it's negative, is so easy, because we're almost programmed to do it. So one of the things I've added here is when others question and judge you through disruption heading towards your burnout, we have almost an auto-acceptance that whatever you tell me is going to be true. And guess what? When Dr. Irene actually was told by whoever was doing the questioning and judging that you're a bad mother and why did you fall asleep, she almost accepted, yeah, you know what? I'm a mum. I put the kids in the car, took them for a drive. Of course I was going to fall asleep because that's what mums do. And she almost accepted it. And the reality is it's the furthest thing from the truth. So everyone, be really careful that your auto-acceptance of other people, when you've got... Let me say this and take a time out. When you're in a situation of disruption or loss, or you're in a situation where something's really profoundly impacting you, be very aware that our auto-acceptance of someone else's opinion is almost bypassing the filters as to whether it's right or not. And if I think in the context of Dr. Irene, someone is telling her that she's actually done this as a mother to her children, and there's a part of this lady who's beautiful towards her children agreeing with it because the filters have been switched off, the rational filters. So everyone, if you're in a situation where some type of loss has come into your life, some type of disruption, be unbelievably aware of how easy you are accepting of other people's opinions, or even accepting a negative opinion of yourself. I'm a mother that's going to put my kids at risk. Of course I am. Just be really careful. Irene, is there anything on that you wanted to share? And I know I'm throwing you at the deep end on that, so you may not, that's fine. Oops, hang on. I think she's got a little stuck. There she is. She's back.
Okay. I was just like,
Yeah, you hung a bit. That's all. It's 2 o'clock hanging. There you go.
did I go?
You're back.
This?
No,
Okay,
no, you look lovely. Don't worry.
So I didn't freeze in a funny pose.
No,
okay,
you look fine.
so I'm going to pass on this one because there was a squirrel moment.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll just clean the board up and we'll come back in a sec. You stop thinking your life is about you. So in those moments of, I'm not sure I should actually speak up, Steve, it's not about you, speak up. The fact that you actually think you can, do it. So, Irene, let's speak up about how you turned it around. Let's speak up about how you started repurposing. Let's speak up about your version of going from watching a 200-year family home as a little boy and watching this man's dog murdered to becoming known as the world's happiest man and living to 101. How did you turn it around to progress to where you are now? Because how did you repurpose the essence of who you are and broke away from all of that acceptance of negativity and brought your filters back into play to who you were as this amazing human being called Dr. Irene?
The first thing that I want to say is that it all starts with making that decision. Understanding on some level that you have a choice. It may not be the choice and control you want, and you always have choice. Speaking of another Holocaust survivor, Dr. Victor Frankl, who's one of my heroes,
yep.
He said, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, his ability to think and his ability to respond in any given situation. So no matter what else is going on, whether it's the gentleman that you watched on the TED Talk, whether it's Dr. Victor Frankl, whether it's me, whether it's our listeners and viewers right now, you always have that choice. And it's your responsibility to choose how you're going to respond to the curveballs that life throws you, the adversity that life throws you. And that response makes all the difference in the world, because you can choose to be the victim of your story. That's exactly what I was, lying in that bed. Even though I was blaming myself, I was in pure, lovingly saying this, victim mode, right? I felt completely powerless. I was the only person in the whole hospital who was on complete bed rest and couldn't move myself. And, I couldn't see my children. In other words, it was victim. The choice is to choose to be the hero of your story. And even if it's just choosing to use the experience to learn and to grow, because growth is an essential emotional need. We are hardwired to grow. We must grow, whether we do it in a good way or in a negative way. And I say now, I'm actually grateful that my ex-husband took that action. Because otherwise, I would have just kept spiraling down. I would have just, and I would have probably just said, here, take my kids anyway. I don't deserve them. Right? And we had joint custody before that. And the thing is, he woke up the mama bear. So that choice, it's not like I went, oh, I have a choice here. No, it's like any parent will, I'm sure, agree with me. It's like, if somebody's threatening your children, right? There's like this primitive no. Right? It was like that pattern interrupt I needed. And I am so grateful to him. And I'd love to say the life was hunky-dilly-dory after that from, just from making that decision. No, it was rough. It was tough. It was hell on earth for years. From a legal standpoint and custody battle that I never asked for, to rehabilitating my son. Once they decided he was going to survive, we were told he would never walk again. He would never talk again. He would never pass that basic level. He would just pass that basic level of high school that special needs children did, because he's missing literally like probably a good third of his left hemisphere of his brain. He should not be able to do it. And again, I said, no. It was like a series of, no, you're not taking my kids. No, I refuse to accept that prognosis from one of the most preeminent pediatric neurosurgeons in the world. I said, absolutely not. I refuse. Otherwise, it was that refusal going, there is no way on God's green earth that I'm going to allow this to happen.
Irene, let me just jump in for a sec before we go to this next section of the board, because I just want to cover something you've said again. Everyone, we're talking to people out there that have had some type of challenge around mental health, mental fatigue, burnout, all of those types of things. The huge issue that was brought to my attention recently about the great resignation of people now starting to work out in post-COVID, what shouldn't I be doing? And it's across all generations. It's everyone. One of the things in terms of the flow of what Irene or Dr. Irene just said is that you've got a choice and you have to accept your choice. And the best way of anchoring into your choices is, what are the responsibilities that are in your life? What are the responsibilities that you are accountable for? And guess what? They're going to go to the things that you love and the people that you love. So let me say that again. They're going to go to the people that you love and the things that you love. And obviously in Dr. Irene's case, it was her children. So the best way of anchoring into your acceptance of your choices is ask yourself, what are my responsibilities to the things that I love, to the things that I care about? You know, those things that make the C-suite executive run out of the corner office like a dime when he finds out that his child's unwell. And all of a sudden having to give, this is a pet one for me because I did this. I got a phone call at 3 p.m. in London to say that someone very important to me in Australia was basically heading towards the end of their life. 20 hours later, I was standing next to them in Western Australia, and it takes 19, 20 hours to get on the plane. So I literally got around the world from 3 o'clock until the next day. And I walked into my boss and said, I have to go. And there was no challenge about fill out a form, go through HR, go. And I was on a plane before they'd even had dinner in London that night. So one of the things you need to do is your choices will be based on your acceptance of anchoring into your responsibilities. I could put the word anchor there, because that's what Dr. Irene did. She started to accept her choices of, what am I responsible for? And she used the term becoming a hero and not a victim. A couple of weeks ago, we actually, and we'll be rebroadcasting the last couple of shows on the mental health series, Andre talked about hanging upside down in code blue and being told that he was bleeding internally, you're getting ready to die, hang him upside down, get him to cough, and the nurses were saying you're getting ready to die. And he went through a process of being a victim to a survivor, to someone who navigates through his life. And in his words, hi Andre if you're watching, he actually re-engineered and reversed his heart disease. So a victim, a survivor, a navigator, those things are actually contribute to you being, as Dr. Irene said, as a hero, because she actually made a conscious choice to accept the responsibilities. I can't be a victim because it will affect the responsibilities of my children, my other loved ones. I have to be a survivor. I have to be a navigator. Victim plus survivor plus navigator in Dr. Irene's world is called a hero. Guess what? Number 3, when she entered with her hero status, it wasn't all Marvel Comics wonderful. It was hard, but guess what? This victim, survivor, hero mentality became the foundation of the rest of her life. I'm not going to rub the board off, Irene, but that's what I heard you say. If you want to know how to make good choices, everyone, accept what the responsibilities of those, accept what the impact of those choices are and what you're responsible for. Because if you're going to be a victim and lie in the corner and your kids are relying on you, all of a sudden your loved ones are going to be impacted. When you make a decision to go from victim to survivor to navigator, become a hero in your life, don't expect it to be easy, but carry forward with you the foundation of what you achieve by never giving up.
Absolutely. And it's survivor. And I always say, in fact, that's a 2 a.m. talking again. I actually, as soon as SARS quarantine was up, I was able to sit in a wheelchair, still broken, but I was able to go in a wheelchair. I discharged myself against medical advice. And everyone in the hospital, it was a nuns run by nuns. And so there were, nuns and social workers and doctors and nurses, and I had occupational therapists. I had everybody coming in trying to convince me not to go. And there's like, you're going to crash, and we want you in hospital here so that we can be here to support you. I said, I'm not going to crash. They meant mentally and emotionally.
Yep.
And I said, I'm not going to crash. And they said, you don't understand. This is a trauma hospital. Everyone crashes. It's part of the stages. I said, well, you might be right. Whoops. Did I go?
No, you're there. You're there.
Okay. You might be right. And I don't think so. I said, let me tell you something. I come from farmer stock. I said, we look at life as a bed of roses, and we enjoy the rose because right next to it, we know there's going to be a thorn. In other words, we are survivors. And I said, I'm not going to crash because I have too much to do. Never did. I always meant to go back and tell them. It's that purpose, right? I had a purpose. I had a why that was bigger than me. Okay, 10 broken bones. So what? To me, it was like my children were everything. And I refused to accept that they would suffer in any way, shape, or form for what I had done or not done, as the case may be.
Yep.
And so that really truly is the most important thing for me. And I have evolved it since, because that is survival, success despite adversity. That is survival, success despite adversity. And then, Stephen, I know you talk about success through adversity. I now say success because of adversity. In other words, not to keep everyone hanging, my son is the poster child for neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to change itself and to heal itself. And he not only walks and talks, he's in his 4th year of engineering at one of the best universities in the country.
Fantastic.
And it came with a lot of hard work and refusing to believe every step of the way, constantly advocating. In other words, we were constantly even fighting our own medical team because they would be like, well, Mom, it looks like he's not going to talk because all he's doing is vocalizing. I'm like, really? I'm on the phone with him 15 minutes a day only, but I can only see, hear him on the phone. And he's saying, I love you, Mommy. I miss you. I said, but she was ready to write him off because the neurosurgeon said he would never talk.
Yep.
Right. And it was like, I'm not saying it was perfect speech, but the point is I could hear it. And so it was a constant refusal to accept even what the experts were saying. I became specialized in brain injury and neuroplasticity so that I could make people pay attention to what I was saying. Because at that time, neuroplasticity wasn't a thing.
The thing, yeah. Let me tell you this, everyone. Based on this, everything I'm drawing on the board is inspired and influenced and being triggered by Dr. Irene. Everyone, to a hammer, everything is a nail. To a hammer, everything is a nail. So if you're in a situation of trauma, and no disrespect to anyone, for example, but if you walk in and you've got a pile of books and it's an accountant, then they immediately think you want to talk to them about your numbers. If you walk into some people in terms of medical situations, the first thing they're going to do is assume you have to stay. You can't leave. And they're not doing anything wrong. But in many cases, to a hammer, everything is a nail, because human beings are herd animals. And 98% of the time, guess what we're doing? We're repeating habits. And some people's habits is the qualifications they call a profession. There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm not being critical, but what you need to be aware of, to a hammer, everything is a nail. So the end result is, if the hammer sees something, it just wants to hit it, because I'm a hammer. That's what I do. What you need to do, and the conversation I heard in the comments from Dr. Irene, you need to break some of those associations. Guess what? Number one, what is my clarity of my purpose, my why, as she put it? Number two, what's the confidence of my experiences? In her case, she talked about, I'm from farming stock, and very proudly said that. What are the experiences? And what's an experience? It's your good and bad judgments based on your learnings and execution of them. So what is your purpose? Your clarity? What is your confidence? Your experiences, both good and bad. And your creativity is your purpose multiplied by your experience, which gives you faith to walk out the door when the hammer just wants to hit you. Let me say that again, everyone. Sometimes you've got to step back and break the associations of all you've ever known to become all you've ever wanted. And some of those things will come is, what is the clarity of why I'm doing this? What are the confidences of the things that I've done in the past? Oh, Steve, I can't leave my job. I'm 45 and I can't leave my job. How am I going to do that? Okay, when you were 17 or 16, when you got your first job and then you had several others, how many times have you had a job in your career? Well, I've done it a few times because, 15, I did the McDonald's thing, and then I went and did this, and then I did fruit picking on my tour around Europe, and then I did this, and then I got a job, and then I left and I got promoted. Oh, okay, so what you're telling me, you do know how to change jobs. Yeah, I do. Okay, well, just anchor into the experiences, both good and bad, of how you did it, and then have the faith through that experience and the purpose of why you're changing now to do it again. So that's what I heard when Dr. Irene spoke. The people said, don't leave. And I'm not accusing them of being hammers, but that's just all they saw. You're not supposed to leave. You're not ready to leave. But you don't understand my clarity, said Dr. Irene. You don't understand my confidence, said Dr. Irene. You don't understand the creativity and the faith of God in the two above. Everyone, if you're in a situation where you're trying to break through, break out, get to a point of understanding, what is it? What am I clear about who I am? And get around people that can help you. What is my confidence based on the good and bad things I've done in my life? Get around those and reabsorb them. Go and talk to some of those people you look up to, and then ask yourself, have I got a faith in my ability to pull the trigger on the next part of my life? Dr. Irene.
It all starts with belief. And when you say everything, to a hammer, everything is a nail, it's what you focus on, you find. And there's strong neurophysiological evidence to that. You have a part of your brain that literally filters all of the incoming sensations and inputs in so that you don't go crazy, and how it decides what it's going to allow through. It's called your reticular activating system, is what is already congruent with what's in your unconscious mind. That's your memories. So your experiences, it's your programming, what you've been taught, what you've been role modeled. It's what other significant emotional experiences, your life-changing experiences you've had, what fears, what beliefs you have, right? And that was the thing. My belief was that my son would be whole and that he would be better than he was before. And he is. At 22, he is one of the most globally minded, mature people, probably more so than most people who are double his age. And he has that compassion. He works hard, and he would not necessarily have had that, because he was like the easygoing younger brother of a genius older brother. And so he was already heading down the road of, yeah, why bother trying, because I can never match up to him. So instead, I taught him, you are a genius too. You can do whatever it takes. Is it going to be hard slogging? Absolutely. But guess what? When the going gets tough, most other people stop going because they're not used to it. You're already used to it. From the time of kindergarten on, he basically had a part-time job, like every day, 2 hours a day after school for 10 years. He had extra therapy and tutoring. It was not easy. And he is successful because of his adversity. And I programmed him with that mindset and that belief, so that he refuses to believe anything else.
What if, and I could write more of these down, but I won't. Let me do this. Oh, sorry, Donna. Did you bring the whiteboard up? Sorry. Donna's in the back office, and she's we're doing this for the first time with her helping me. So just bring the whiteboard up if you would, Donna. And as I said to Donna yesterday, I'm so used to doing this by myself. So sometimes, bless you, Donna, for helping me. I really appreciate it. And Donna, hi, Donna. We'll be doing all the branding stuff next week. Okay. Dr. Irene, if it happened today, Given that we're talking to people right now who might be in some type of breakup, who might be changing jobs, who may have lost a partner, may have had an accident, may have lost some love, are feeling caged because all of a sudden what's happened in COVID over the last 18 months has made us realize there was a cage and we didn't know, because all of a sudden 9 to 5 going to work and doing all those things all of a sudden changed because I could work from home and all the different things that happened. People are now aware that there's more of a cage around them than ever before. So they're now starting to ask questions of themselves about what should I do next. Let me ask you this, Dr. Irene. If this happened today, any one of these things, and some of the stuff that's happened, particularly in terms of the accident, actually there was a possibility you'd lost love. There was a possibility you'd lost a partner. I'm not talking about your husband, but the partner being your son, for example. What would you need to do with change job? You did have an accident. If this happened today, knowing the journey you've been on, Dr. Irene, how would you speak to these people that are watching today, given the journey and the repurposing and the reigniting your mental resilience, from going from a mum who thought she deserved to lose the kids to going to a mum who's getting ready to go to an engineering graduation, for someone who's going to walk on stage that we're told he never would, for someone that would never go to school and is now a qualified engineer. If it happened to you today, a breakup, a change of job, a lost partner, had an accident, lost love, feeling caged, or having questions about what I can do because I'm feeling mentally pressured, what would your answer be, Dr. Irene?
My answer would be to give yourself grace, to understand. Remember, we're hardwired to go to pessimism, to negative, and automatically go, oh my God, how is this going to hurt me? How is my life going to suffer because of it? Or how are others going to suffer? That's automatically going to be your knee-jerk response. And then take that fall. And then the next step is, my mantra is, everything is happening for me. Everything is happening for me. I don't need to know how in the moment, because I don't know what I don't know. Your gentleman, I'm sorry if I don't remember his name.
Eddie Jacku, God rest him.
Eddie.
Yep.
Right? As you said, he didn't know.
He didn't.
Right? He didn't know all the good things that could come afterwards and the person he would be. In fact, he was probably even happier afterwards.
Yeah, no,
he still needed to make that decision. He could have, survivor's guilt is real, like losing his parents and all of the other people in his community and his culture and his spiritual community, right? In other words, he could have just do like I did and wallowed in that remorse and survivor's guilt and poor me, my life has been ripped away. And I'm not saying that facetiously.
No.
And no one would blame him. And instead, he chose to find the good. And it's understanding, again, choice. And the first choice is making the choice of how to respond. I don't know what this is going to be like because I'm only looking like through a little periscope. I don't have the whole radar screen. I don't know what the future is going to hold. And I'm choosing to believe that everything is happening for me, even if it is only the ability to grow from this.
Everyone, if any of those things I listed on the board a little while ago, if any of the things that you can relate to I know I won't say that, I won't say your version of the Holocaust out of the respect of what that was. If you've had some type of accident, and maybe an accident doesn't need to be the traumatic circumstances that Dr. Irene went through, bless you, beautiful. But an accident for you might be just saying something stupid. An accident for you might be making a mistake in a relationship. Whatever the accident definition would be, the very first thing you do is these 5 steps in terms of what Dr. Irene said. Number 1, have grace. Number 2, accept. Number 3, explore. Number 4, decide. Number 5, navigate, in honor of what Andre said. That term navigate came from a gentleman that was actually hanging upside down, and they were telling him, we've got to get blood into your head. We've got to get you to cough because you're about to die. And they were yelling out code blue, and he actually could hear them yelling out code blue. He knew what it meant. So I don't say any of these words to Dr. Irene's story, to Rajiv's story, to Andre's story, or to you watching your story. I don't say this lightly. Have grace. What is that called? Kindness. Accept the hit. And guess what? Let life touch you while you accept it, because sometimes it's going to be really, really, really hurtful, angry, frustrating. Why me? All of the things about the stages of grief. Bargaining, why the hell did this happen to me? It's not fair. No, it's not. But guess what? What's fair got to do with anything? So number one, have the grace to be kind. Number two, accept and take the hit. How do you do that? Let life touch you, but don't get stuck there. Explore. What does that mean? Start reaching out and researching. You might, first thing you reach out is, what are these stages of grief? How do I understand what the hell is happening with me right now? Why do I say that, everyone? In my case, I've actually been in lockdown for 107 days, and I know a lot of people around the world have suffered the same thing, but I don't know anyone in Sydney. I was here, and I was due to go to New York, and all of a sudden got stuck here. Not that I'm complaining. I shook hands for the first person today at the Hilton foyer when it's finally out of lockdown. I shook hands and made physical contact with the first human being in 108 days today. So guess what I did? I actually went and explored research about that being so distant from everyone, because it was the circumstances. I don't have a partner. I don't have a family. I don't know anyone here. So even when lockdown opened up, I'm sitting there thinking, and none of this is woe is me, but I researched why I'm feeling this almost isolation. And poor Donna I drive Donna crazy sometimes when I talk to her about it, because I had to understand and explore why I'm taking the hit of this brutal isolation. And my story is no worse than everyone else's, but being someone who's living in a high-rise apartment in the centre of Sydney without a social connection, without a business connection, and not being able to leave the house, I needed to explore that. So my advice to you is explore the hit and be kind to yourself on those nights when I'm sitting here thinking, God, this is hard. Accept it. Number 2, decide. What's that? Choices. We talked about choices. What's the best way of making good choices? Understand the responsibilities that are going to be affected if you don't make good ones. And then finally, navigate is actually your judgments. In fact, no, let me say that again. For those who watch the show a lot, you've never seen me actually change anything before. Clarity, confidence, creativity. Have the courage to be clear, be confident, create. And guess what? If you get it wrong, go back up to number 1 and be kind. Take the hit that you got it wrong. Explore what other options you can do. Make some revised choices and navigate clarity, confidence, and creativity. And guess what? If you get it wrong, guess what? Go back to grace, acceptance, explore, decide, navigate. How do you be kind to yourself? How do you take the hit? Actually let life touch you. How do you research? If I'm feeling grief and I've had a best friend loss and I've had someone die or pass, go and actually explore what grief means. So put into Google, everyone, this is the really hard one. Put into Google, like I did, being in isolation and trying to get past all the COVID stuff that came up. I actually read a chapter of a book of a guy that had spent 30 years in solitary confinement about the whole business of how that affected his psyche. So you might explore about, well, how my best friend died, and look for advice from professionals, or what are the stages of grief? Reach out to people who may have a similar experience. There is no shortage of information to teach you how to do this. So let me surmise as we wrap all of this up. If you're in a situation of some brutal disruption in your life, which could be something of losing a loved one, losing a job, having the trauma of a mother to have to deal with the things that Dr. Irene had to deal with, have the grace to be kind to yourself, accept the hit by being present in the moments, explore and research to seek help from others, decide through choices by being aware of the choices and the responsibilities that it will impact on, and then with clarity, confidence, and creativity, go and negate the rest of your life each and every day, and keep going back to grace and kindness, and you'll be stunned. You'll be absolutely stunned at how kind life will be to you, because you deserve it. Dr. Irene, as we wrap up.
I love that, Stephen. One of my favorite sayings is, it is what it is. And that is the acceptance of the current reality. And I know there are those who don't like that. They feel it's victim. I remember listening to Joe Vitale go on a total rant about it, saying that it was victim to say that. The key is you don't stop at it is what it is.
No.
It is what it is. Now what? And it's having, I would add in curiosity, right? Because curiosity is the opposite of judgment. Curiosity is the, I don't know what I don't know. So let's start asking questions. Where can I go with this? What can I do? What is the best next step? And there's the grace again, understanding. You don't need to know, just as Joey didn't know that he was going to live to 101 years old and have this amazing life, right? You don't need to know. What is my next best step? That's all I need to know is, what is my next best step? And then the belief, everything is happening for me. My world may be crashing down on me, and everything is happening for me.
I said on a recent interview that I did, what's happening to you is necessary.
Ooh,
and sometimes that's really hard, but what's happening to you is necessary. People will often say to me, especially recently when I've mentioned it to a couple of close friends, I go, "Oh, Steve, how are you handling it?" This 107 days is probably the most life-defining period I've ever had in my life, because the only way you can get truly present in life is to stop. Why meditation and all those things are so important. Actually stop and get present and start understanding what's happening to you is necessary, because there's a reason why it's happened. There was a reason why I've got this ability to do things on a whiteboard, and then all of a sudden I get forced into an apartment for 18 months. If it wasn't for this COVID business and this apartment, I never would have started Inspiring Insights. I wouldn't have people asking me questions like this. I wouldn't have people giving up sleep in the middle of the night. So whatever's happening to you is happening because it's necessary. Your job is to make the choice of what the impact on those choices will be on the responsibilities of your life. Write this one down and we'll finish on this, everyone. What is the destined responsibility of why you're here? Any final words before we wrap up, Dr. Irene? Thank you so much again. I wish I looked that nice at 2 o'clock in the morning. Trust me, it's not a good look. So thank you. Thank you. Have you got any final words? I know we've danced around the board a little bit, but I really appreciate your input.
I just love what you said just now about that everything you're going through is necessary. There's that success because of adversity, and choosing that mindset. And there's that word choice again.
Yep.
Right. Is understanding that I need this to happen. And the responsibility is, maybe it's my own spirituality. My belief is that we are all born pure positive energy and genius potential. And it is our responsibility, and what we're meant to do is to grow into the fullness of that potential. Just like a baby doesn't just stay in diapers and go, goo, 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 feed me and change my diapers. No, it's like there's this innate drive to grow, to learn how to roll over, to sit up, to crawl, to walk, to talk, right? In other words, we must grow. And that comes from adversity or choosing to grow. And,
Exactly.
and adversity can be a very beautiful way of, because let's face it, it pushes us in ways. We've all been challenged in ways that we never truly thought possible, and we wouldn't do to ourselves. Right?
It's called life, but yeah, exactly.
Right. It's kind of like a trainer, will push you more than, if you go to the gym and just work out by yourself. It's like, yeah, no, I don't need to try that extra weight. No, this is good enough right now. Right?
Well, my best advice, everyone, as we wrap up, is this: in this 15-second clip I did from season 1 of show 4. It's about a 12-13-second clip. This is my take on everything we've said today.
In the moment of your conception and birth, and in the moment of your last breath and passing, it's by yourself. But everyone seems to think from when we begin to when we leave, everything is about everybody else in the context of defining who you are. Solo is life. You start yourself, you finish yourself. My suggestion is you be yourself on the journey on the way through.
Thank you so much, Dr. Irene. Everyone, be you. be well, be brilliant, make wise choices. And what's happening to you is necessary, because you can either wait for your life to happen or go make it happen. And adversity is normally the second thing that happens when you decide to make it. Thanks so much, Dr. Irene, and we'll see you all again next week, everyone. Be well, be brilliant, and be you.
Thank you.
Start investing in the world called